The Persian Gulf, a landscape defined by oceans of black oil beneath the sand, yet entirely at the mercy of the blue water crashing against its shores. Now picture this. It's the dead of night. The desert air is completely still. And suddenly, the hum of an unmanned aerial vehicle shatters the silence, followed by a concussive blast that shakes the earth. This isn't just another military strike. This is the beginning of the ultimate nightmare scenario. Welcome to the dawn of the water wars. On Saturday, a catastrophic blow was dealt to a desalination plant on Iran's Qeshm island, instantly plunging 30 villages into a desperate, bone-dry reality. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Erekchi immediately pointed the finger at Washington, framing it as a deadly U.S. provocation. The Pentagon? U.S. Central Command's Captain Tim Hawkins forcefully denied it. But the irony is thick. While superpowers trade diplomatic fire, the taps are running empty. And before the dust even settled, a retaliatory Iranian drone slammed into Bahrain's critical water processing infrastructure. We are no longer just talking about proxy skirmishes or oil embargoes. We are witnessing a targeted, calculated assault on the fundamental capacity to sustain human life in one of the most volatile regions on the planet. Millions of lives hang by a single, fragile thread of purified seawater. If that thread snaps, entire glittering metropolises will collapse within days. Before we break down the terrifying reality of this escalating crisis and what it means for global security, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a comment below. You need to stay informed because the geopolitical chessboard is drying up, and the next move could trigger an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe. Let's dive in. In the unforgiving deserts of the Middle East, water isn't merely a resource. It is ultimate leverage. Over the weekend, that leverage was weaponized, pushing the region closer to the brink. We are tracking an unprecedented wave of strikes on critical water purification facilities in both Iran and the island kingdom of Bahrain. This is not collateral damage. It is a direct assault on the fundamental capacity to sustain human life. Drawing from the initial dispatch by Vivian Nareem, here is the breakdown of a crisis that threatens to parch the Persian Gulf. The dominoes started falling on Saturday. Iran's top diplomat, Abbas Erekchi, pointed the finger directly at Washington, alleging that American forces obliterated a desalination plant on Qeshm Island. The immediate fallout? 30 surrounding communities suddenly found their taps completely dry. Erekchi took to social media with a stark warning, framing the strike as a disastrous American precedent that invites severe, uncompromising retaliation. The Pentagon, however, is pushing back aggressively. Speaking for U.S. Central Command, Captain Tim Hawkins drew a hard line, categorically denying any American footprint in the Qeshm operation. Barely 24 hours later, the theater of conflict shifted across the water. Officials in Manama announced that an Iranian drone slammed into one of Bahrain's own water processing centers. The Interior Ministry wasted no time denouncing Tehran, accusing the regime of recklessly targeting civilian infrastructure. Now, Bahrain's utility regulators claim the local grid absorbed the shock and water continues to flow. But the smoke hasn't cleared on whether either the Iranian or Bahraini facility remains operational. And from Tehran, total radio silence regarding the strike on Bahrain. To understand the sheer gravity of this escalation, you have to look at the geography. We're talking about a landscape already buckling under severe, prolonged droughts, particularly inside Iran. Down in the Gulf, nations like Bahrain do not just utilize desalination technology, they absolutely depend on it for survival. Pumping seawater and making it drinkable is the singular thread keeping tens of millions of people alive. Neutralize those plants, and these sprawling, glittering economic hubs effectively collapse. According to Abdullah Babood, a regional specialist at Japan's Waseda University, Putting Bahrain's water infrastructure in the crosshairs isn't just another skirmish. It crosses a massive red line. He notes that in the Gulf, these facilities are not mere concrete and steel. They are essential lifelines. Taking them out morphs a localized military clash into a direct existential threat to civilian survival. The regime in Tehran spins a different narrative. They justify their aggressive posture against Gulf nations, vital American allies, as legitimate blowback for a blistering joint U.S.-Israeli bombardment campaign inside Iran that kicked off on February 28th. Iranian brass insists their crosshairs are fixed strictly on American troops and military bases, not everyday citizens. But the reality on the ground shreds that talking point. Over the last week, a relentless barrage of Iranian unmanned aerial vehicles and ballistic weapons has rained down on the Gulf, leaving a trail of shattered airports, damaged luxury hotels, and battered power grids in its wake. Yes, highly advanced Gulf interceptors have swatted the vast majority of these threats out of the sky. But the shield is never perfect. According to a tally of official data by the New York Times, at least 10 civilians have been killed in the crossfire. If you think a war over water is an overblown fear, look at the historical blueprints. Security analysts and diplomats have been sounding the alarm on this exact nightmare scenario for decades. Take a 2008 classified dispatch out of the American embassy in Riyadh, famously brought to light by WikiLeaks. That document dropped a chilling bombshell. At the time, a solitary desalination plant was responsible for over 90% of the Saudi capital's drinking water. The author of that cable painted a grim picture. If that plant, its pipelines, or its power supply went offline, the entire metropolis would require mandatory evacuation within a week. The very existence of the Saudi government, the memo bluntly warned, hinged on that single facility. Since that wake-up call, Riyadh has poured massive capital into expanding strategic water reserves, attempting to insulate the kingdom from disaster. But as these Gulf megacities have exploded in size, drawing in millions of expatriate workers, the fragile ecosystems underpinning them are being pushed to the absolute limit. We are watching a volatile chess match where the board itself could dry up. With additional reporting out of Washington by Eric Schmidt, we will keep our eyes firmly on this escalating front. The terrifying truth is that the destruction of these desalination plants is not just collateral damage. It is a calculated weaponization of thirst. We are staring down the barrel of a reality where infrastructure is no longer just concrete and steel, but a weapon of mass displacement. If these strikes continue, the strategic implications are almost too catastrophic to comprehend. That 2008 Riyadh WikiLeaks cable wasn't just a diplomatic warning. It was a dark prophecy. A megacity stripped of its water supply doesn't just suffer, it ceases to exist. We are now looking at two very dark, divergent paths forward. In scenario one, the U.S. and its Gulf allies interpret these continuous infrastructure strikes as an ultimate existential threat, triggering a massive, direct military retaliation against Tehran that engulfs the entire Middle East in an uncontainable, all-out war. In scenario two, the advanced missile defense systems finally fail. A critical water node in Bahrain or Saudi Arabia is permanently obliterated. And we witness the rapid, chaotic evacuation of millions of people, sparking a humanitarian and economic collapse that would send shockwaves through the global supply chain. The glittering skylines of the Gulf could transform into modern ghost towns in a matter of days. The board is set. The stakes are nothing less than human survival, and the water is rapidly evaporating. The only question left is who will cross the final red line. What do you think happens next? Will this escalate into a full-scale regional war, or will back-channel diplomacy pull them back from the brink? Drop your predictions in the comments below, share this video to expose the reality of the water wars, and subscribe to our channel for continuous, hard-hitting geopolitical updates.